That's what you've got to do. Now, again, we know that according to Yah's word, he brings the illumination through his arm, his movement, the descendants of Jerusalem, which again starts with that stone cut out without hands. That's that seed of David that Yah said he would bring forth, right? The messenger, right? He was to establish Yah's movement.
Peace to the whole nation of Yasharala. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video by the House of Yah or Righteousness, the brother Yahuda ben Yisrael. With that being said, and me watching that video, and me being an offspring of Yah or Righteousness, and doing much studying, praying, and reading and researching, and just developing a personal relationship with the Almighty, getting in tune with Him, paying attention what's going on in the world, and paying attention what happened beforehand, throughout history, and just doing a whole lot of reading and researching. I come to the conclusion that I want to challenge Yahuda ben Yisrael to who this stone truly is that's being talked about in Daniel chapter 2. From my understanding and reading and seeing what's going on today, the prophecy, and seeing what has taken place, in the past, this stone is no other than Ahaya, the power of Yasharala. Let's take a look at it. Let's read. I'm going to start at this Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. I'm going to pick it up right here. You, O prince, lowercase king means prince, saw and behold a great image. This great image, which was mighty and of surpassing brightness, stood before you, and its form was terrifying. Talking about that statue, right? This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of bronze, his legs of iron, his feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Verse 34. Now this is when we get to the nitty gritty, right? The meat and potatoes. This is where I draw my conclusion and only reverence Ahaya right here. While you looked, a stone was cut out by no hand, which struck the image on its iron and clay feet and broke them in pieces. Now the iron and the clay of feet, that's today. This is talking about now times. For the iron is the Amalekite Edomites and the nations that made alliances with him. Those who colonized us and brought us over here, those who have made deals and formed ties with the Amalekite Edomite, the so-called Illuminati, the illuminated ones, right? Your Rothschilds, your Bilderbergers, your Shivs, those who have dominion. So they are the iron. The clay is the house of Yasharala, the people. You can also put the people in here, but it's specifically talking about the house of Yasharala, us, so-called black people, so-called Afro-Latins, us spread it throughout the four corners of the earth. Us, what I'm saying? We are the clay because like in previous scriptures, the higher is called the potter. The clay is always trying to tell the potter what to do, but the potter is the creator. And so we must serve our maker, right? So this is why he give us a reference to being the clay, and our oppressors, the enemies, is the iron. Okay, so where was I at? Okay, broke them in pieces. Verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold broken in pieces together, and became like the shaft of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, so that no place was found for them. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Now, it says that then was the iron, the clay. Now it's talking about the bronze, right? Now we're going back in the past, Now we taking it back into the past, like the nations that was before us, right? So it talks about the bronze, the silver, the gold. Now we know the gold was the Babylonian kingdom with Nebuchadnezzar. Now we know the silver was the Medes and Persians, and the bronze, of course, was Greece, right? And then somewhere in there you got the Romans coming up in there, you know what I'm saying? So if Ahia says that he broke them in pieces together and they became like the shaft of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that no place was found for them, and the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. How can that be the seed of David that did that way back then when we were carried away as captives and there was no seed of David? So that stone that's cut without hands, that is a higher. That means no one can say that they have did this. Ahia has did this on his own. You know what I'm saying? So Ahia has cut himself out, pretty much he has became our deliverer and smash all these nations before us. No man can get the credit. No other nation, no messenger, no anointing one, no idol, no one, only a higher. So the stone that's cut without hands is given a metaphor to, like, you can't give no credit to no one. So no, this is not the seed of David. This is not the seed of David that's in captivity. No, the seed of David is not going to hit the feet of iron and clay here. That's a higher who's hitting the feet of iron and clay. Look at what's happening today. Is it not a higher bringing down the nation before us? Is he not bringing his plagues before us? Is he not is he not punishing the nation's resources? Is he not doing that? Economically, is he not bringing down the dollar and breaking it? Is he not? This is during the time of the feet of iron and clay, mixed partially together. If you go down more, I believe if you go down more, or should I say up more? I don't think it's up more. I think it's down more. Okay, yeah, when you go down more, when it says, and you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of strength of iron, just as you saw iron mixed with merry clay. And as the toes of feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly brittle. Don't you see that here? We've been seeing where we've been, and especially here in America, that America has been partly strong and partly weak. It has its strong suits and it has its weak suits. That doesn't make it it doesn't make it as strong as it appears. You know what I'm saying? So when you go back up and you go back to that 35, and it's talking about these nations, Ahia got rid of the Babylonian kingdom, the Medes and Persian kingdom, the Grecian kingdom, the Roman kingdom, which is kind of like, some people think this is the Roman kingdom today, which will make sense in a sense, right? Because the those who they may thought them were Roman leaders who had dominion, but they were Amalekite Edomites posing. Josephus was an Amalekite Edomite, fulfilling the prophecy that they will blend in within any nation that they become, that they are up under. But they will be small among their nations because they always try to fulfill the vision, which is in later chapters in Daniel. And the vision was to fulfill what was promised to them by their father, by Isaac. That, you would take the yoke off your neck from your youngest brother, and then the yoke will be upon his neck, and then you will rule by your sword. You know what I'm saying? And we know the sword is weaponry, which is true. We know the sword is through cruelty, through evilness and wickedness. Nothing righteous, because we know The original Esau wanted no parts of obligations to the law and doing righteous things before Ahia. You know? So once again, y'all would have been Yisrael. How can you say that this stone that's cut without hands is the seed of David when the seed of David was not here during this time, well, at least not in position right during this time, and the seed of David did not strike the gold. The seed of David did not strike the silver. The seed of David did not strike the bronze. The seed of David did not do that. So how can this stone that says here specifically in verse 35 that it struck all of these pieces together, which the last piece was, of course, the iron and the clay in the feet. So you mean to tell me that the seed of David struck the iron, is striking iron and clay right now, and it's the stone, but the seed of David didn't do that to the gold, Nebuchadnezzar, to the silver, Medes and Persian, to the bronze, to the Grecians? Come on, we gotta make it make sense. So those who just tagging along with this and going along with it, you guys are just following doctrine of men, but not the word of Ahia. Follow the word of Ahia, and he'll lead you to the way. You guys is looking for a savior out of here, a specific entity to get you out of here, when only Ahia is going to remove you out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like he said, that you will not leave out of here by haste, but you will leave out of here with me as your river. You know what I'm saying? So Ahia's going to come and deliver you and walk before you like he did when we were left out of old Egypt. This ain't nothing but old Egypt, old bondage. You dig what I'm saying? So I'm just here to say that that stone is not the seed of David. Stop looking for the seed of David here to deliver you and rescue you and be this great, powerful entity that's going to crush all these nations here while we are in captivity. Ahia must crush these nations first where we are at, bring us back, then establish the seed of David in the other entities that surrounding, that make up the kingdom of Ahia, which is the seed of David, the king, the prince line, which is the house of Zadok, which is the high priest line, and also take priests from the Levites. And then that's creating the governorship that governs the house of Yasharallah. Them three entities, the white, the priesthood, high priest, and the prince king. Or the prince priest king. Because, the prince is under the order of Melchizedek. Come on. But that's a whole nother video. I talked about that before. But if you can just look past any kind of stubbornness and give all reverence and credit to Ahia, then you can see that this stone here is not the seed of David, and that discredits and counts out Yahweh righteousness as the servant. Because in many other spots, you can do just that. Many other spots where they put themselves, where he speaks and correlates the scriptures and places himself as the servant, that can now be annulled. Once again, peace. But I'd like to offer the challenge to YHWH Yisrael and to anyone who's following this doctrine to discredit Ahia as being the stone here that took out the nations before us and taking out the nations of today. Peace be to y'all. It's your brother Yeshua. Peace.